Hello, everybody. This is Bob Mylan from the Utah High School Football Officials Association with another study topic for 2023. Today, we're going to talk about defenseless players, and we have some updates to the rules to bring everybody up to speed. So, we're going to talk about defenseless players today. So, let's get started. Our overview, we'll talk a little bit about history and why the rule is there, cover the definition, which is on Rule 2232.16, found in the early part of your rule book in the definitions section. Look at some new changes and updates for 2023, talk about how to see it, call it, administer it, report it. We'll look at some film and then sum everything up. So let's get started with this very important topic that we need to all be on the same page regarding. So let's go through this. Some background about how we got to this point. Why is the defenseless player rule important to the game of football? I think we've all been reminded of this recently, but let's go back as far as some history and philosophy is concerned, all the way back to 1907, and a speech by President Teddy Roosevelt found in the handbook, that's that rule book that we never read, on page 14. And basically what he said in that speech is that we need to provide less focus on who wins the overall championships in the game of football at the high school level and instead widen the base of participation, because it's more important to have individuals play the game of football, even though they play it badly, that it is that they will get more out of doing that than they will by watching others play it well. So make sure that we follow this philosophy and keep the rules so that it increases the participation in our game. The rules are there for three main reasons: fair play, minimizing risk, and providing a balance between offense and defense. Now, I think we can all see the importance of this rule when we consider today's climate. The game of football has come under intense scrutiny in recent years, and these rules have been implemented. And as a backlash of some of these rules, we've heard a lot of complaints from coaches about what is actually legal and what isn't. So now we've come up with, the Federation has come out with some rules that will help coaches to teach legal techniques about how to deal with defenseless players and where the responsibility lies for these hits. So let's talk about that. Let's get into the rule itself. The definition is on page 38 in your rule book, Rule 232.16. And the underlying principle, if you spend some time, you go to this rule and you read it. And I encourage you to do this with your chapter mates and crewmates and others. As you get together, read the rule out loud together. And what you'll discover is that the underlying principle for the responsibility of taking this out of the game rests solely on the shoulders of who initiates the contact. So make sure that this philosophy permeates all that you call and see and how you apply your judgment to these rules. So responsibility rests with the initiator of the hit. And that has become clear in recent years and in this new iteration of the rule book. Now, there are identified examples within this rule of what a defenseless player is, and here they are. A passer, a receiver or intended receiver, and you'll notice point D is missing here from this list. A runner in the grasp whose forward progress has stopped, a potential kick returner, a surrendering player, a player who is out of the play, not in the vicinity, and the recipient of an illegal blindside block. These have been defined and are carried over from past years, but new this year, we have point D on this rule, and this is brand new this year. So what does point D say in the rule book? It says this: a receiver, as identified in B or C from our last list that you saw, or an interceptor who is forcefully contacted by an opponent, and if that contact is not one of these three ways that I'm about to list, then the contact is deemed illegal. So remember, this applies to a receiver or someone who is intercepting a pass. Incidental contact as a result of playing the ball will allow you to avoid any penalties for a defenseless player hit. Similarly, if the contact is initiated with open hands, that's legal. We're going to show you an example of that. An attempt to tackle by wrapping arms around the opponent. These are the three ways that the rules have now identified that contact against a defenseless receiver can be made legally. Anything else other than these three techniques, if you see anything else, it's illegal. So make sure that they demonstrate one of these three techniques to avoid the penalty. Here they are in some detail. This is from the National Federation new rules presentation that we all saw recently as part of our state clinic. The receiver is not defenseless because the incidental contact is a result of a play on the ball. This is legal contact. So make sure that we allow this to occur. If we see this, this is not a penalty. All right, similarly, this receiver attempting to make a catch is contacted by the opponent in black, and the contact is forceful, but because the contact is initiated with open hands, this is not a contact against the defenseless receiver, illegal contact against the defenseless receiver. It could be pass interference, however, depending on the timing of the play. So remember, though, that as far as our defenseless player rules are concerned, this is legal contact. Next, an attempt to tackle by wrapping the arms. Here the player in the gray wraps his arms around the potential receiver. It is not defenseless because the opponent is using a wrap-up tackle technique, and this is legal contact. So those are the three ways that you can contact the receiver legally. Other ways that you'll see in some of the film clips we're going to show you don't involve these three techniques. And it's clear that when that happens, the rules want us to penalize that action. But how do you see it? Well, the best advice we can give you to help you see these calls better is to widen your focus. Avoid ball watching. Watch the players, don't watch the ball. That's a fundamental. And know when to focus attention on a potential hit that may be developing. See it coming. Certain plays lend themselves to this, and certain players do as well. Certain positions tend to offend more often than others. Certainly, whenever you have a live ball turnover, like an interception or a fumble recovery, or a kick return, a punt or a free kick return, these lend themselves to this kind of contact on these dangerous hits. Whenever the players are widely scattered on the field and then they begin to come together, that's when these potential hits can happen. So be aware of this. Factors to consider when you see this developing in front of you and you see one of these hits occur. What is the effect on the victim? How severe was the hit? What was the intent of the fouler? Watch what he does next. Is he trying to punish and to send a message? If so, that's going to be evident in what he does after he delivers the hit. And then also, finally, keep in mind the game situation, the big picture. Do you really want to penalize in this situation? If it's contrary to good game management, you might consider not. If it helps your game management, then you might consider it. But keep in mind that this oftentimes is bigger than the immediate play that it's involved in. So sometimes you have to widen your focus and consider some other factors. But one factor not to consider is the role of either the person who delivered the foul or the victim to his team. Don't just avoid calling it because this is the superstar or the coach's kid or some other, celebrity individual within the team. Don't pass on the call or don't make the call as a result of this person's importance to their team. We should not be a respecter of persons when we're out officiating a game. And this is something not to consider when we see these dangerous plays and defenseless player plays developed. All right, so let's look at, I'm going to show you 4 plays here. So let's look at these 4 plays, and this is the type of thing that we're trying to get out of the game. So watch the receiver, catches the ball, and just gets drilled. Again, the contact is not delivered with an open hand or play the ball or a wrap-up tackle. And in fact, when he gets up, watch what this player on the ground that's laying on the ground that delivered the hit, watch his actions after he delivers the hit. Keep an eye on him. Watch him. Yeah, baby. All right, he got that one. So that's what we're talking about. So make sure that you take a look at that so that you know what the intent of that person was. Here's another one. This time I want you to watch the receiver at the near hash marks. Okay, let's watch this play as it unfolds. Watch number 7 come in, delivers the blow with his shoulder, does not play the ball, does not attempt to make a tackle. And in fact, here you're getting lots of help from the coach on the sideline. So there's always some people that always will be willing to help you make this call. But nevertheless, this particular player delivered that hit with the shoulder. Let's watch it one more time here and see if we can fast forward a little bit. There we go. None of the 3 techniques that are legal is shown in this hit. We want to penalize this. All right, next one. This time I'm going to start this one up because it runs a little bit, but watch the far slot receiver at the top of the screen and watch the contact by the middle linebacker. In this case, you're going to refer to 232.16H. And what we'll see right here, there it is a hit that's delivered with the shoulder, not with open hands, and delivered with the shoulder against a player whose focus of concentration was elsewhere. So let's look at it and see if we can spot it one more time. This is another one that we want to penalize. Now, you could penalize this as a 10-yard illegal use of hands on the defense, or you could penalize it as a 15-yard personal foul. But nevertheless, that player is not a potential blocker in that particular play. He is looking into the backfield. He's not even looking for the middle linebacker. So that is an illegal contact as well. All right, let's watch this last one. This one is a little different. How are we going to call this one in 2023? For this play, I want you to watch the cornerback number 1. He's positioned right now on the 25-yard line. He'll go out of the frame for a moment and then come back in. And watch his contact against the potential receiver who's attempting to catch a pass that is overthrown. All right, let's talk about this one just for a minute here. In years past, the official who threw this flag, we supported this flag prior to 2023. However, this year, this player's contact is now deemed to be legal because he does initiate this with open hands right here. Let me see if I can back it up a half a second. But you'll see his contact is initiated with hands open in the back. He pushes and knocks him down, but it's initiated with open hands. Now, this is a great instance where you may need to throw a flag on this just because of the history that this player may have throughout the game, or the game situation may dictate that you have to call this a penalty. But by rule, this is a legal contact against a defenseless receiver. If you have other reasons for throwing the flag, that's fine. We support those. But make sure that this contact is, that the legal contact is allowed in this particular play, as we've seen it just on this one little snapshot play. All right. How do we administer this? Well, sometimes these kind of hits require more input than what we were able to see. So the covering official, if you have to discuss this as a crew, the covering official is in charge of the discussion. The R can assist in the administrative choices, but the crew assists by bringing in information that adds to the situation. Don't just come in and give your opinion that, oh, I didn't think he caught it, or I don't think that was a penalty, or you're wrong, that was a penalty, or you're wrong about this, or whatever. Bring information that adds to the situation. Were you aware that this happened? Did you see that? Did you see from your angle? Could you tell this? And those kind of things. Covering official, as this information is brought to you, be objective, not defensive about it. Accept the information that will help you to make the call, because ultimately this is your call. You must own the final call, whether it's a penalty, a wave off, or other things. So the possible outcomes right here, you can wave off the flag, penalize 10 or 15 yards, depending on the level of the league that you're officiating, and also the type of foul that you're talking about, and in extreme cases, eject or forfeit the game. We certainly hope none of that happens. But if it does happen and you have a major incident, be sure to write down all details: the date, the time, the level, sophomore, JV, varsity, the teams, the score, who the penalized player was, who the victim was, what happened, the description of the act, your response and the action that you took, and then any names of responsible adults present who either witnessed it or played a role. This could be an athletic director, could be a doctor trainer, could be a police officer, who knows. But if there are other adults present, you should record their names as well in case there's any follow-up required. Then, if you do have a major incident like this, you need to report it to the UHSAA office the same day and copy the crew. And it's the responsibility of the calling official. If you're the one to eject the player, then you write the report, not your R. So in some cases it will be the R, but not always. So report it. Use the ejection form that you find on the website. This is what it looks like. It'll walk you through exactly the information that's required by the state to enable Jeff to discuss with the coaches and with the other authorities of the state present to then adjudicate the issue from that point forward. But this gets you off the hook if you can do this the same day while it's fresh in your mind. All right, let's sum up what we've talked about today. We understand why this rule is important. It's for safety and to widen our participation base. The responsibility to make these hits legally rests solely on the shoulders of that person that initiates the hit. And now we have some techniques that we will able to fall back on to identify legal contact. You need to improve your observation skills by widening your focus and avoid ball watching. Anticipate situations where this will occur. Watch them on film. Prepare for your games. If you have one during the game, go back and watch that play again on Huddle and share those plays with others on Huddle so that we can all learn from these situations as they come up. Administer it fairly and appropriately with a cool head. Don't get embroiled in the emotions of that moment or that situation. Consult with your crewmates if necessary and report all the details when it's appropriate to, and do so in a timely manner. If we do that, we can remove this dangerous actions and keep our game safe for many years to come. And with that, I'll turn it over back to you guys. If you have questions, please reach out to me. I hope you have a great season in 2023. Thanks for your attention.